I'm reviewing Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, the sequel, direct sequel to Batman Begins, and I'm not reviewing the third one. I'm going to say that's a separate video, unless I change my mind at some point in this review. I guess it depends how shortly, how much I can cram into two reviews into one video, you know? So, let's start with the one that started it all. Batman Begins. Oh boy. So the movie opens up with, no joke, Bruce Wayne playing with his girlfriend, playing a rock, and Bruce taking it from Rachel because he thinks it's his business in his backyard, and telling his, I don't know, it's a fucking rock. Anyway, falls in a cave, and next thing he wakes up and it was just a dream. But he was having a nightmare as an adult what happened in his past childhood events, and he's in prison for some reason. We don't know why. And everything starts to come together in a matter of flashbacks, flashing back from present and past. Why he's in prison? Because nobody believed who he was, and this guy was a criminal, and nobody believed that he was, Bruce Wayne, because the cops are too stupid to believe that there was Bruce Wayne when, yeah, he had a beard, but he didn't look that much different without a beard, and so some of these cops didn't believe that, so he got thrown in prison along with the other criminals that he beats the shit out of, because he needs to take out his trauma, his anger from his trauma out on a bunch of criminals, and okay, this feels like it should have been a 3-hour and 40-minute movie. I'm just saying there's an awful lot of story elements because for it not to feel clutter is kind of challenging when film's under 3 hours and around the 2-minute mark. I mean, the 2-hour mark. It's roughly just a little over, just over 2 hours. I think this one is, or let me check. It's 140 minutes, whatever that is. Pretty sure that's like, it's under 3 hours. It's not 3 hours long, then close. So this film feels like there's too much going on in this short amount of runtime for this movie. The movie's too short, and unless you have a really habit of really paying attention to every little detail like me, you're not really going to get that. You're really not going to get that much enjoyment out of it, you know, because there's too much story in this movie and too much plot elements tying up loose ends of everything, including his origin, and like maybe if they just I think this problem could have been fixed. This problem could have been fixed if no one decided to not do it in flashbacks, like flashback to present and past, and just have it and take place in chronological order the entire movie, because that would have avoided so much confusion. It just seems like how this film was edited that was probably the original intention, but something happened. I don't know. It's just, yeah. So what happens to the cave? He lands in the back cave and be essentially afraid of bats, and he gets taken to the opera house that people wearing back clothing because it's his dad's and mom's are taken to the opera, and they can't see why why is he scared and having PTSD, panic attack or something. He just starts freaking out, and he asks if we can leave, and then he says, yeah, sure. And he doesn't tell anybody, and the father's so oblivious to not see that he's freaked out by the bat still in the cave. So they get their comeuppance and get gunned down in a dark alley where a goon robs them. This guy called Joe Chill. And then years later, when he's adult, Joe Chill gets released from prison because he agrees to testify against Falcone. And Bruce brings a gun to the courthouse to shoot him. You know, to kill him because he thinks bullshit that he's getting away scot-free, technically, he gets clean for the sake of getting clean and street. And Rachel's part of it, so oh, Rachel, I fuck Rachel. You're grown to hate her in this trilogy. Sure, in the first one she's all likable and dandy and relatable and interesting, but in the second one, oh, she's just a total skank. Looks like she gets killed also in an explosion in the second one. So, yeah. Spoiler for the second one, Dark Knight, yeah. So this movie, then he can't go through killing Joe Chill, that someone else does it because someone does beats him to it. And he confesses about having the gun, so Rachel just slaps him in the face because she says his father would be ashamed of him, blah, blah, blah. His parents would be ashamed of him, blah, blah, blah. And he goes to talk to Falcone. Seems to bring a gun in, but then he throws the gun away because the boss says so. And, gets kicked out by Falcone and his men after he tries interrogating them, and then he interrogates Bruce and sees through Bruce's act and realizes he didn't saw his thing through. So that's why he lost them and ends up in prison, so he can discover how he can make people like Falcone afraid of him. This guy called Ra's al Ghul, I know. The movie's pronounced Raz Al Ghul, but they mispronounced it as Raz Al Ghul, so I'm just going to call him Ra's al Ghul. And yes, it's not obvious for some reason to not everyone that the Ra's al Ghul that was posing as Ra's al Ghul that died in the fire after Bruce betrays the real Ra's al Ghul, who was revealed to Ra's al Ghul in the third act when everything starts falling apart. And yes, this is all in the same movie, Ben Begins. Yes, this all happens in that movie. Confusing when you think about it. Yeah. So Ra's al Ghul bails Batman out of the prison before he becomes Batman as Bruce Wayne, and Bruce Wayne goes to the mountain and brings a blue flower to the Ra's al Ghul's cult. I forget what. Goes to Ra's al Ghul, it's just in this little palace, and Ra's al Ghul beats the shit out of him, but this is before Batman finds out that he's not fighting he's fighting Ra's al Ghul, not this is before he realizes this is Ra's al Ghul that he's fighting, getting lost to him. Because this old bald guy is posing, this agent is posing as Ra's al Ghul, but this more of a tool. a copycat to like keep this myth legend alive that he's an immortal when he's not. Because spoiler, he dies because Batman lets him die when a train crashes into the building in the climax. Yeah, the real Ra's al Ghul. The fake Ra's al Ghul dies in an explosion inside a house that Batman set fire to. Because he can't go through his killing, so he has to backstab everyone that taught him the wills, the skills that he needs now to fight Gotham and take back his city and has people fear him. And throughout the movie, Free Extraction movie, everyone's been telling that the father's death in parents is not his fault, but his father's. Because, you know, that'll make things better. It does not. Spoiler, yeah, it does not. So, Ra's al Ghul helps him accept that the father's death was his father's fault, not his fault. Both of his parents did was his father's fault, not his fault. So basically, shitting on the Batman missiles when he takes that because for having him blame himself for his parents' death, in order to create this rage, it's incredible, unstoppable rage within him which encouraged him to fight crime for the rest of his days, adult life. Nice one, Nolan. Nice one. Nice one, Bale. Nice one. You shit the bed, guys. By shitting on a legacy character. Wow. So anyway, he goes back to home, Gotham, and takes control back. His parents' company, becomes the CEO after working in the shadows to take back his control's company while at nighttime, dressing up as a vigilante in a bat costume because he remembers he's afraid of bats, so he wants to share his dread and to make people afraid of him. And Crane is working on poisoning Gotham with fear, with fear gas that creates fear and makes people see their worst nightmares come true. It's like crazy pills. That makes you crazy. That's what fear gas is, you know? Okay. Batman puts a stop to it while also putting a stop to the Grand, which also was working with High Tide, which was working with Ra's al Ghul. I know it's pronounced Ra's al Ghul, but I'm saying the right name. From the comics, I was canon in the comics. And also Batman anime series, which is also canon in the comics. So, fuck you, too. So, Ra's al Ghul, what a stupid name. Wait a minute. Is this why M. Night Shyamalan changed his name for the last Batman movie? Because he saw Batman Begins to it, so it would be okay if he did it? That's the only... Okay, that must be a business. The only thing that would make sense. So anyway, Batman puts his stuff to the grand scheme after Wayne Mansion is burned down and suits up in the Batman costume one more time in the third act, and after giving Rachel and Commissioner Lieutenant Gordon, before he became Commissioner Gordon, he becomes Commissioner Gordon in the sequel to The Dark Knight, and also he's still Commissioner Gordon in The Dark Knight Rises. He's not Commissioner, he's Lieutenant Gordon right now. Doesn't have the same ring to it, I say. Gives the give the drug that's cure for the Scarecrow's drug that creates fear and makes them go crazy and wild out of fear. Because the thing that we kiss fear, worst fear. And and he gets this idea to make more after not by inventing himself because why have Batman invent his own inventions because like the comics, because that would be just too interesting and show that he's more brains than bronze, right? This Batman needs to be all might, no brains, right? That's the way, right? Right. That's what it's been since the Michael Keaton era, right? Right. So fuck you, Nolan, again, for shitting on Legacy Cat and taking that character trait right from him, Fuck you. A big fuck you, So... yeah, so, and, Algie puts Coney behind bars while Coney years later after return to Gotham as Batman. So in order to avenge his parents, he needs to bring him justice behind bars. And turns out he found out, wait a minute, Coney's not the one that was responsible for my parents' death that was committed, that was Joe Chill patrol gun. It was Ra's al Ghul all along that was working in the shower that gave Val Coney's idea to hire the gun on my parents. Brilliant! That's brilliant! Makes sense, of course. Of course that makes sense. A double whammy makes sense. You double whammy it, all right. You see one of my problems. This feels like this. Now this was when the movie jumps the shark. And Ra's al Ghul, after crashing Bruce Wayne's apartment, and bring down Wayne after he kicked off his guests out, Bruce Wayne did. He comes clean, and that inspire him, and that makes him want to beat the shit out of him and let him die to avenge his parents' death. Now his parents' death is avenged. Why not just bring him into custody? Instead of just letting him die. Oh, wait, because we wouldn't have the Dark Knight free when the daughter wants revenge for her father's death. Because she was the mastermind behind the entire thing of all of Bane's brutal actions and murder. Wow. And he probably didn't think of how that would backfire him into, well, many, over a decade later, it backfires right in his face, and he, in the third installment, So, yeah. Okay, so Batman stops the bomb that go off in Gotham. That's basically like a giant nuclear bomb waiting to go off, and going to crash in the building while it's on the train, while finding Ra's al Ghul, and letting him die after shutting the bomb off. Well, the bomb didn't shut off. He was helped with Lieutenant Gordon blowing up one of the things that were keeping the bridge up that his father built for him, part of his father's legacy. Destroys the bridge and redirects the target because there's not enough time for the bomb to go off, and he has no idea how to deactivate it, So he lets the bomb go off in a different direction where there's less civilian casualties, while letting the only person die, Ra's al Ghul. Because he knows his father wouldn't want him to commit murder. So he'll let him die. Willingly, for his own free will. Wow. You really hate Batman, Nolan, don't you? Or you never read a Batman comic, probably. Because once again, you just had a shit on Go Legacy character and this dance all over the body. Dance all over his legacy and pretend just pretend he'll let someone die. Because that's Batman wouldn't do that in the comics, but no, usually doesn't let someone do that in comics, but he won't let us do it in the comics, but for his greatest enemies, but in this one, yeah, sure, why not? My brain is rotting from this stupidness. So, Batman is now a town hero. And Commissioner Gordon, in honor of him, builds the bat signal. To honor the Batman and always call for his help. So, Batman pulls out the Joker card from the Evan Gordon game film. On the file on the Joker, and he said he'll look into it. And he goes into look into it, who the Joker is, and that leads into the second movie. And for that, I'm so want to say this film blows because it does that. Advertise a Joker like that's going to be good, but in reality it's going to be crap, insane, and soft-spoken. And this is a generic fucking forgettable villain and a sequel. And this is why Batman Begins, fuck it, just gets a 6 out of 10. It is only slightly below average. And let's not forget the color grain's fucked up because someone decided that was a great idea when the film got released worldwide on home video, on Blu-ray and on DVD and digital, that they should crop the movie's aspect ratio, which also fucks up the color grading, which makes it look more science fiction than reality. A dark, gritty reality, which no one intended to make the film look. But instead, because of that, it gives a more artificial sci-fi look. You know, when 2012 Dread was a sci-fi apocalyptic future, looking well more realistic and dark and gritty looking because of the color, because it looks less artificial and fake than Batman, which takes place in present time, and this is Batman supposedly supposed to take place in our world, not his world, from the comics. That's what's his plan, Nolan's vision for the franchise. For all these reasons, this review, why I have to give this a 6 out of 10. Dark Knight? Well, this is my quick review on Dark Knight. It gets a 0 out of 10, The Dark Knight. It is generic, the plot's generic. It just borrows every heist cliche and a dumb blockbuster action movie cliche. And the Joker sucks! The performance, majority of the time sucks. Half the time they'll be good. Half the time they'll suck. That's why it gets 0 to 10. And it ends on a cliffhanger when Jordan's marveling how great Batman is because he takes the fall for Harvey Dent's murder of killing cop Rampage. Because he wants to save the lover's wife, Rachel, because he links the cop because Joker convinced him. Pretty easily. Fuck you, movie. 5 out of 10. Bye.